Holy crap! Some guy just texted me and said, I will buy your charcuterie board for $2,000. He just said, just ship it first and then I will send you your money right away. Well, I guess that's fair considering he's gonna pay $2,000 for it. See guys, it's as easy as that. All you need is someone to text you and say they'll buy your charcuterie board for $2,000 and boom, money in the bank. That's really all there is to it. Yeah, so sadly, as you all probably already know, it never really works like that. But I do have a couple ideas that I could give you that could make you your first $1,000 to $2,000 or maybe even more with woodworking. So I still remember my very first sale I ever made. I was just a young lad. I used this highly advanced web-based marketing strategy website that has a valuation of over $485 billion. Can you guess what it is? Yeah, Facebook. Believe it or not, Starner Woodworking was born on Facebook. I was sitting on my couch one night and I decided, I liked woodworking. I had a couple tools laying around. I want to build some cutting boards and try to sell them. And here's actually my original post that I posted that day. And you can tell it was nothing fancy. I just put something out there. Sometimes that is the most important step. Since I really built like one cutting board at that time, I didn't really have much of a portfolio at all. So I just searched the web and found some cutting boards that I think I could probably build and that I thought that looked cool and just slapped them on there to give some people some ideas of what they could look like. And I mentioned in the post that I will be taking orders and this is the best way to do it for sure. Some people will make a ton of boards and not be able to sell them all, and then they'll just have them laying around and have a bunch of extra inventory, and that is not what you want at all when you're trying to make a profit. When you take orders, you know that each board that you make is guaranteed profit because it's already spoken for at the end of the day. So if you do this to start out, it's all about getting out of your comfort zone and just going for it. Because guess what? You're never gonna make any money and learn how to market your products or just learn new experiences in general if you don't go out there and try it. Most of the times on Facebook, people are often really willing to help you out. This post that I had actually ended up getting 49 shares, which is amazing. You can imagine the reach that it got just from that little post. And I ended up actually getting 12 orders from that post alone. So I quickly realized I didn't even have the wood for all these 12 boards. I don't even know what I was thinking. So I called up like 6 or 7 local sawmills and said, hey, do you guys by chance have any cherry or walnut or maple in 8/4? And a lot of people did not have it because I guess it's a little rare and a little hard to come by. Eventually, I did find a guy that sold some and I ended up getting all the wood I needed for around 400 bucks. I ended up selling all 12 cutting boards for an average of $125. I definitely could have got a little bit more for these considering they are end grain cutting boards and they are a higher quality product. But it was my first batch. I didn't really want to make people pay a lot before they even knew what quality of work I could do. Just one thing I learned is to make sure to be upfront with your price right off the bat. Some people couldn't imagine even spending more than $40 on a cutting board. And some people really know what they're actually worth and are willing to pay pretty much whatever price you throw out there. So after all that said and done, I walked away with $1,100 in profit, which is not bad. And it doesn't have to be cutting boards or end grain cutting boards. It can be any product that you can find or think of. If you want, honestly, you could just search around on Etsy or Google and find some cool products that are selling and just screenshot some pictures of them as long as you know that you can actually make them and put them out there. Honestly, it never hurts to try. I mean, come on. The worst thing that could happen is someone can react with an angry face and say that you're a tree killer, but that's not too bad. So there's one way to do it, but let's say you don't have any Facebook friends. Don't lose hope. There is another way, don't worry. After I actually finished getting rid of the rest of my 12 cutting boards, I went and signed up for 2 craft shows. I wanted to expand my reach just beyond my family and friends on Facebook. But for craft shows, there is a little bit of a bigger barrier to entry. You're probably gonna need a like 10 by 10 or 12 by 12 canopy tent, 2 to 3 foldable tables, and a couple tablecloths. And that's going to run you probably around 500 bucks. Also, for craft shows, there's usually an entry fee, and from what I found, it's usually between 50 bucks for the smaller ones and 250 bucks for the larger ones. And I'm sure it can get more than that. So with that added in, you're down around 700 bucks just to get in. My first craft show was in my local little small hometown. And I definitely recommend going for a smaller craft show for your very first one to start, just so you can get a feel for everything. It was a single day show, and after that show wrapped up, I ended up bringing in around 600 bucks. Not too bad, honestly, almost enough to pay for all my expenses. A rule of thumb for craft shows is if you make 3 to 4 times your entry fee, you're usually walking away with a good day. And since the entry fee for that show was 60 bucks and I made 600 bucks, I walked away with a 10x on my money. So I'm definitely pleased with it. But more importantly, I figured out what people like to buy and what people don't like to buy. I would say most people at craft shows have a budget for around $100. But this could definitely vary depending on where your show is at. Shows near cities can definitely bring in a much larger crowd that are willing to spend a little bit of more money. My second show I went to was a 2-day show, and it was in a much better location. The best thing about 2-day shows is after the first day, you can adjust your prices accordingly. You can raise your prices a little bit if you find that you're selling a ton of things, and you can lower your prices a little bit if you're finding that there's interest there, but people aren't buying anything. The first day was a little bit slower than the second day, and I made $600. But I went home and adjusted my prices a little bit, and on the second day, I doubled it and made a whopping $1,300. After all my expenses from that show, I ended up walking away with a total profit of $1,500, which is awesome. Was all of this a lot of work? Yes. Did I spend countless hours and days in my shop grinding out all the boards to get it done in time? Yes. Was it worth it? Definitely yes. Luckily, I already had a tent and tables laying around, so I didn't have to factor that into my expenses. And with both shows and the Facebook post, I ended up walking away with a grand total of $2,950 in cold hard profit. Definitely not bad. I am planning to use that money to invest in some new tools, which is always super exciting because come on, who doesn't love brand new spanking tools? The more shows you end up doing, the easier it is to learn how to balance the supply and demand. You'll easily be able to figure out what products to make for the show and what products maybe to leave at home. Another quick tip about the craft shows is that if you have business cards to hand out, you will definitely get orders after the show. Now that's passive income, baby. Well, I guess it's not really passive, but it's close enough. The awesome thing about business cards is that it gives people a chance to go home and maybe think about what they might want and then contact you at a later date. This is also great for if people want custom pieces with maybe a laser engraving, which I definitely recommend going to grab a laser engraver. I will have a link to the one that I use down in the description. It's a pretty good deal, honestly. So now I challenge you to get out there and go make some money. Don't be afraid to take that first step because I probably can guarantee that Elon Musk is not going to reach out to you and buy your charcuterie board for 2,000 bucks.